Hello and welcome to the Quantum Mogul podcast. I'm the co-founder of Quantum Mogul, Jasmine Soori-Arachi, with my co-founder,
Donal Kelleher.
And it is our pleasure and a true honor to present a real innovator today, Adam Rowe. He's the founder of Zero Labs, and Zero Labs specializes in premium classic electric vehicles for the past remade into the future. Welcome to the podcast, Adam.
Hi, thanks for having me. Nice to see you guys.
We're really, really thrilled that you said yes and that we could find this time. So a little bit of an introduction to our viewers. Adam is a leading agent of positive change in this area. He's a true pioneer, and he is passionate about responsible innovation for our children, our personal history, and the future. And this is a pretty shocking fact that Adam has brought to light on his website, and that we really want to share with our viewers, which is that 99.95% of the 1.5 billion vehicles on the road today are still powered by fossil fuels. It's a huge challenge, and this is all quoted from the website, but it's the world's greatest opportunity for change. And this is something that Quantum Mogul absolutely stands behind. And this is why we are so thrilled to bring a true pioneer who hasn't just thought about it, he's really creating the future now. So again, welcome, Adam, and please share with our viewers a little bit about that turning point that made you go for this. How long had you conceived your vision? Tell us a little bit about what makes Zero Labs so different from anybody else in the market, and really what made you so passionate about staying the course and creating all of the marvelous innovation that you've created to date.
Thanks. That's a good question. I think what drew me to it is I've had several companies. Most of them are technology related, and I think what I like is generally to find really hard problems that people complain about, but they've really done nothing to solve. We sort of resolve ourselves in saying, well, that's just the way it is, and this is unfortunate, but we'll just deal with it and complain about it. And I'm drawn to that. Like, does it have to be that way? And I think when my last company, which was a 300-person technology and advertising agency, which I sold in 2015, was doing the same thing, but in the technology world of retail innovation and the ways people found out about products and the way they were talking to each other about products, well above advertising. And I think that while I was doing that, I noticed, I was a classic car collector. I had a bunch of old trucks and Land Rovers and Broncos and Land Cruisers, and things like that. But I also saw that no matter how much I love this category, it's kind of over. I mean, it is still alive in our spirit, and these are the vehicles that, when I was a kid, that these are the vehicles I identified with and loved from my era. That's happening at a massive scale. And so what we have is this idea that we want to keep what we care about moving forward, which is why we listen to music that we liked when we were younger. We wear clothing that reminds us of that era, but the difference is that vehicles, especially older vehicles, they're very hard to maintain. And there are people who can maintain them. There's only a limited number of people who can do that. And so what you end up with is the end of an era where those vehicles are really kind of hitting their sunset. And now you have a massive attention on global emissions, on efficiency. And on top of that, if it wasn't enough, the performance characteristics of a car created 50 years ago is really different than a car created today. When I was a kid, 55 was pretty fast. 65 was considered like a breakthrough speed. And even then, you were supposed to keep 2 car lengths back when you're following another car. Now I drive to work, a car is several inches from the back of my car going 90, and we're okay with it because we trust the performance of a car. You can't take a car from the past and drop it into that era and go, we'll be okay. It's terrifying. Those cars don't drive very well. So you have a performance characteristic as well. So the idea was to find a way to bring our past to our future. And it's not just going to be simple electrification. We tried that. what you end up with is essentially like a rocket on a tricycle. It goes fast, but it's terrifying and it's out of control. And you know very quickly, with all of the considerations for performance, balance, and maintenance, that that wasn't the future. And so I set up Zero Labs to solve that problem, not only from the performance characteristic level, but also something that's actually scalable in the way that the old conversion techniques really never were.
And do you think that that is something that you can get past, you know, the stability of the car, when you put all this new technologies, electric technology into it? Do you think it is something that you can get to a point that it can be doing 90 a couple of inches behind your bumper?
Yeah, we've we drove the old version. Our first generation of vehicles was I would say, and not disrespecting the current industry, but it's the old way of doing things. It's the way they're doing it now. Even the new companies that are coming out are still doing it the old way. And so it takes a while. And even though they have, you know, kits that make it easier, you don't typically see those cars going on highway speeds. You may see them going really fast on a back road or something like that, but they couldn't keep up with modern cars. I was doing a video shoot or a photo shoot for GQ Europe, and I had Mike D in the Beastie Boys driving one of our cars, and he's used to like low sports cars, things that go very, very fast. And I was sitting next to him, and he was driving as fast as he could, and he had every right to do that. But that moment where you accept that you're going to die, and that's it, you know, you've accepted your fate, you're just going to die. That was that moment, because the car was swerving and it was hard to steer. And I thought we were just going to careen off the cliff on the PCH and that would be it. But it also showed me, like, he's right to drive it like that. That is how you drive now. And so, so we set up to do the platform, which stabilizes the drive characteristics, which stabilizes steering, which balances it perfectly, and it's highly, highly modular. And we've taken those cars up to 110 miles an hour with 5 passengers. We just did a Motor Trend shoot where we did got to 125 mile, you know, and no classic car, very few classic cars, especially consumer versions, have ever gone 100, let alone 80, you know. So we're encouraged by that.
That's
very good,
extraordinary.
very good. So you're basically saying you already have the work done. So you're well advanced in getting these cars up to the modern era.
Yeah,
we maintain
yes.
the old.
Yeah, we had a conversation yesterday about how do we stabilize a car at over 100, you know.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we're at.
Very good.
That's amazing. And where do you see the biggest innovation breakthrough moving forward? For us and our audience, it's really interesting to know who were the first people who were really attracted to your concept, who said, yes, I have a really, really beautiful, beloved vehicle that I want to turn into an EV. I trust you with her, or trust you with him. And who are those first early adopters?
Our clients are probably, the earlier ones are probably what you think they would be. They're, you know, when you think about the old economic curves of like innovator, early adopter, you know, early mass, late mass, laggards, you know, that curve. Ours are mostly innovators. There are people who at first don't really require a great deal of like market proof and years on the market to make their decisions. They're ready to go now. They've been waiting for this for years. And so finally someone solved the problem. They're willing to take the chances on you, even in your early days. And we're now that we've been delivering cars for a while, we're starting to see the early adopter market take notice of it. And we're seeing like, I saw a car that you created, or a friend of mine has a car that you created. So now that's happening, and that's triggering the next group, which is the early adopters. But I think from a behavioral perspective or a profile perspective, you know, what they really are is someone who's had a dilemma of, I want to save what I love about my life, but I also want to do something that doesn't come to the impact of the future. And so I want to, what's my personal history worth? And so a lot of them have their classic cars and they have a electric car, and they kind of hate both. You know, they love the electric car because it's clean and fast, but it has, in their words, they say it has no soul. It just feels
Yeah.
empty. It's like an iPhone on wheels. And
I've
they're
heard
just,
that.
iPhone on wheels is a really great description.
Yeah.
and there's a great deal of personal loss, you know, when it comes to not having the thing that defines you taken away from the market to do the right thing. And so you're kind of caught between this idea of, you know, who I am and what I want to represent, what characteristics and identity I have, but also I want to save the planet. So what we, you know, in their own way, we want to give them the opportunity to have both, that you don't have to give up your personal history and you can still do the right thing for the planet, you know? And that's that. It used to be more in the early days, it was really more focused on the environment. But now it's really about longevity, and it's about heirloom and preservation and performance than it is. It's almost that at this point, and this changed very quickly, the market pivoted from talking about the environment as the main driver to the idea of a better quality ride, longer performance, being able to have this car for many, many years, and really enjoying the quality of an electric vehicle can bring that a gas car has trouble bringing.
Now, when I heard about you first, the immediate thing that came to my mind was Henry Ford, and I'm sure, right, you've been maybe asked this before, and you know, where he brought, you know, the car for the common man, right, where everybody or mostly everybody could afford it anyway, and he brought it from, you know, the car was there before, which was expensive, but he wanted to get it for everybody, and I'm sure this is what's in your head as well. How do you see, right, that you can do that and deliver it at a cost that everybody can afford, or is this for the luxury market?
So with anything in the early, you know, technology market, typically your innovators and early adopters are willing to pay a premium to be able to achieve that in a timely way, and that's why you don't have, like, you know, 10,000 of something that's important. There's no 10,000 Da Vinci paintings, you know, or there's no 10,000 Michelangelo sculptures. They're rare, and their rarity and the makes it important. And I think if we did have 100 million electric classic vehicles in the road right now, that would be, by the way, amazing. But you're not going to start with that. So what makes it cheaper is making many more of them. And, you know, we can't make more of them until we really reach a point where it is cheaper. We're going to slowly graduate down from the early adopter market and the innovator market. But our plan is to really address a mass market.
That was my main question, right? Is that what your ultimate goal is? I know, right, it is expensive to do it at the beginning, but is that what your ultimate goal is, to reach the masses?
Yeah, I mean, it'll never be like the vehicle of choice for a single mom nursing student or something who's like on a super tight budget. You know, if the existing vehicle market, the OEMs, they're really much better suited for handling economy market, because they have robots who will do what they want offshore. That'll do it for pennies on the dollar, and they have billions of dollars in funding. But that doesn't mean we can't make more affordable conversions.
Okay,
I think that's what we're headed towards is, how do we take what's right about what we're doing? And if we could have it the perfect way, we would create a product that is at or near the same price of buying one of those. So now you would say, do I want to convert my, do I want to buy a new car, or do I want to electrify my Citroen DS or something? And it's about the same price. And I think that we want to make it that we want to cause that dilemma. Like, maybe I don't want to buy a new car.
Yeah.
But maybe I take the same money and use that to convert it. Right now, it's orders of magnitude more expensive. You know, there are very few new cars that are equal to the price of one of our fully developed electric vehicles. But that won't be that way for long. It's only that way right now.
And what are some of the changes that you see happening that would make this more of a dilemma, as you said, as we move into the future, where obviously you have your own proprietary technology and processes, but where do you see the biggest gains coming, and where do you see that speed up happening?
It's beginning right now. Like what we're seeing more and more and more. I've been doing this for 7 years. And I'm seeing every year I see new startups that and we get letters from them. A lot of them want to do what we're doing or use our technology or are really excited by the space. But for us to do this at scale, we have to leverage the existing industry, not just go out and create a bunch of Zero Labs locations and become a giant mega factory builder. But whereas we're already using the existing vehicles to achieve our goals to a certain extent, we can also leverage the existing industry to do that as well. So our plan is to not compete with the industry and say, all right, all the guys who are into restorations and electrification and classic vehicles and fleet conversion, we're not competing with you. We want to provide you with a technology that makes your job better. A lot of them are not engineers. A lot of them are not, C++ programmers and understand values of embedded Linux and bidirectional, CAN networks and things like that. That's just not going to be something they're going to want to learn or should learn. And they want to focus on what they do really well. So what we want to do is make sure that they can continue to do what they want to do, but let me turn this off. Sorry. Continue to do what they want to do, but sure, there's an alarm going off. Sorry. There. Someone was trying to call me. We want to make sure that they continue to what they do and then not worry about the rest. So we can leverage the aftermarket. There's a million aftermarket shops right now in the world who specialize in the maintenance of existing gas vehicles. So if we could repurpose that industry and bring them into what we do, we don't have to create a massive infrastructure to support this category. We're using what's already there. And better than that, we're giving them a cool, fun, exciting way to continue what they do and what they love in a way that they don't have to close shop. Because let's face it, the aftermarket gas vehicle shops are going to be, they may have a 10 more years, maybe, but they know it's coming and they're worried. The idea of doing conversion and leveraging the infrastructure that's already there gives them a life beyond what they're currently doing, just like what we're doing gives a life to the cars they're working on.
And would you like sharing, right? Like what kind of level of scale do you want to work at the moment, right? Or do you have like 10% a year, 20% a year, or is it more aggressive than that you would like to grow this?
Yeah, I mean, it's I would say our scale is probably closer to 100 to 200% per year. I mean,
good.
we have right now about 77,000 order requests, and that's without advertising. And I still think that's quite low considering how big this market is. I mean, there's 100 million classic vehicles in the road right now. And there's probably another 300 million in garages just sitting there that no one's using. So what we want to do is bring those cars out and be able to use them as an alternative to going out and buying a car that you really don't even care about because it's electric. But the way to scale, the way to get that is not going to be from selling a bunch of things. We can't, just like Apple didn't go out and create an iPhone, sell it, take the proceeds and go build 2 iPhones and sell that and go out and build 4 and 8 and 16 and 32, they built the factory and the infrastructure to support that demand and to hit that. I don't think they care about price point so much, but to hit that scale, they built the infrastructure for it. Our industry doesn't have that level of financial support yet. It doesn't have the.
And that was the reason. And that was the reason I asked you, because like we have ourselves here in Quantum Mogul, but we have a cohort of people that follows us as well that are very, very interested in things like this, especially like investments like this, but also not so much. It is not just any investment. It is if it is doing something really good and something that can truly be proud of. And this would definitely be one, I think, that would tick a box in that. How are you going about that? Or would you like to share how you go about that? Or is it open, right? Are you on a funding program at the moment, or are you looking for something like that?
Yeah, we've met with probably 1,700 venture capitalists over the years. I mean, there's always a stream of calls, but you get to know pretty quickly that most venture capital kind of operates on really two models, not all of it by any means. A lot of it is things that have precedent, right? So they want to invest in categories that are proven, that other big investors have already put money into, even specific companies that already have both of those. That's most of the venture capital world. And even the family office world is still very much what we would call like follow-on capital or momentum trading capital, where they're waiting for someone else to make the bigger decisions and take the risk, and then they follow along with that. That's most of the market. So it's rare you meet someone who sees it and goes, I'm going to go first. You think that they're all like that, but they're really not. They're kind of waiting to be like, they're all penguins lined up on a cliff, looking around to see, has anybody jumped in yet? Because is there a sea lion down there that's going to eat us? And so they're all kind of lined up right now, waiting to see who goes first. And right now, really, no one's gone first. I mean, I have gone first. I've put a lot of my own
I can see
net
that.
worth and funding into it, because I am, to borrow from Nassim Taleb, I have skin in the game. I need to show you that it's not a job for me, that is a mission, is a personal cause to change the way we think about what we're doing, to the extent that I'm willing to go first. But we are doing a raise now, and I don't know. I'm always open to talk to venture capital, but I usually know it's either they don't go first.
There's a reason I asked you, right? Because my background is over 30 years in finance, so I am very, very, very familiar with the way venture capitalists and family offices and hedge funds work. But just a quick question, and we can talk. I know you have some more questions, but this is just something that's a real personal interest to me. Were you ever at all approached by any humanitarian fund for what you're doing?
Not that I can think of. No.
Okay. There's something that I think we could definitely talk about there, because this is something that I work with very closely, right? In that particular area, and this is a lot of the reason why Quantum Mogul exists.
Yeah, we actually have an offshoot called Quantum Mogul Philanthropic Futures, and we are very, very interested not only in the technologies, but in the ideas that are creating the future now,
and what you stand for as well,
and what you stand for. And it's so beautiful that you're sharing your story of going first. We've talked a lot about it also in our own in the many businesses you've had, and the many, I would say, lives I've had as well, about going first and this monk moment. I think a lot of people know Elon Musk's story of, after PayPal, he split it into the 3 companies, right? Very, very few people, but the people who follow us, the people who are loving this series, are people who understand intimately what that risk is like, and what the sleepless nights are like, and what the complete lack of a safety net in a sense is like, and the lack of security is like. So would you speak to what keeps you going, driving forward, when you've identified what is a huge market? I had no idea of this market. And also you've identified a real, buyer's decision-making point, which is, well, we have to, move to electric for all sorts of reasons, but I really don't feel the car has any soul. I'm really in love with, what my grandfather gave me, or I'm really in love with this other thing.
What keeps you going?
What keeps you going as someone who goes first?
That's a good question, and it's something I actually spend a great deal of my waking life thinking about, because
I
mean, it's if I wanted to do, I sold my last business, and if I wanted to get back into the comfortable world of advertising technology and media, I could have done that. But I also was aware that this category is really commoditized and being taken over by giant networks and conglomerates, and it sort of lost its specialness that we had created in the past. My last industry that I created was very much a multi-billion-dollar category that no one really saw, and now everyone does it, and even the retailers are copying what we did back then. 15 years ago, they're still kind of doing it. It would feel empty, and that would be although I could have felt, great, I had a company, whatever, I would always feel that I could have done more with my skills. And so I want to take on a really hard challenge, but, there is no precedent. What made Lucid possible, what made Rivian possible, what made the Ford E-Lightning possible was Tesla. And not because they're, necessarily borrowing their technology. They were the precedent. But what made Tesla possible was 16 years of being punched in the face and being told no. And there wasn't a great deal of market optimism. And when we started this company in 2016, Tesla had a 65% short position, and that's like the market going, we know this is going down. We know this isn't going to work. And everyone was wrong, but that's where the market was when we started. So that wasn't long ago. I think the market's very much come around on this idea, but how do you keep going when it's not what you wanted? When I started this, I had tens of thousands of orders and I created 2 perfect drivable models. I had reviews from, Motor Trend and Top Gear, and we had celebrities calling and big name investors calling, and it was great. Everything was perfect. What I didn't expect was the investment market to be so unconvinced in doing something other than software. And I knew that was a big step, but I really had no idea that they're literally going to go, I want to buy one of your cars, but I don't want to invest, even though I have billions and billions of dollars to do so. I'm still not going to invest. I'm like, that makes us crazy, because we feel like we did something wrong. But then you realize what that is you just got to prove it to them. You can't wait and ask for permission. You just got to show them. And, you would ask about Ford. Ford was very much in the same spirit of, you can't wait around for someone to.
Exactly. Brilliant.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's just Henry Ford came into my mind when I studied what you were doing. It just, I could see the same thing, because his challenges were huge as well. And I enjoyed the way you said that there was a sharp position in Tesla. I come very much deeply from the financial background, and I'm never sorry when I see people with sharp positions getting caught, because they really are the most negative people. They're betting on a failure all of the time, right? And I wish that they spent more time creating, right, or even if they did create, right, with what they made out of the sharks, But anyway,
that's why for a while an inverse volatility index was a sure bet, because you bet everyone's going to freak out and then eventually they're going to calm down, and you're making money by shorting the calming down part, because it won't last,
Exactly.
but what keeps it going is really, and this is the hardest thing I've ever done. And I didn't have a mentor to sort of show me the ropes. I didn't have a model to go, just be like those guys, do what they did. There really was nothing in front of me to say, this is how you do it. So you could be discouraged and you could feel like a failure, and you could feel like this isn't quite how I want it to go. I wanted us to be much bigger by now, and so on. Or you can change that attitude and turn that self-talk off. Instead, my attitude is very simple. I focus entirely on the present, and I believe this is sort of my operating system for the last few years, that it is our attitude towards the present that determines our future. And that is how we think about what we're doing right now, every single day. This moment has an opportunity for you to react a different way, for you to think about things a different way, and look at what's in front of you with a better attitude about what's ahead, and not let the past get in the way of that. Because if you're going to walk around and be sad or disappointed or let down, you're going to miss something that happens directly in front of you the next minute. So,
exactly. Truly a mindset of champions. This is something in Quantum Mogul that we absolutely stress, because we exist to help creative visionaries build the future now, really create the future now.
Yeah.
And what so few people understand is the absolute commitment that it takes in action, even when you don't feel it and even when you don't want it, to continue to focus on that future in everything that you're producing right now, and every decision that you're making right now, because fear wants us to contract. Fear wants us to look to other people's solutions or the past. But when you're pioneering the future, there are no maps. You're creating your map moment by moment. And I think your description of both with such beautiful emotional honesty of what this actually takes is it's electrifying, because all of us who are actually behind the same thing in whatever our genius zones are, we so feel you. We are so with you. And it's really essential to I feel to share stories and have a network and really make the process that we're going through so transparent, because other people feel the passion, and they, through the continued commitment to the vision, start to see what you see. They say it in theater, and I used to be an opera and theater director, and they always said, as an actor, if you see it, if you really see it, the audience will see it too. And with the vision, you've created it. And yet there's a huge expansion. There's that whole ramp up that is happening now, that other people have not yet seen. And this is such an infuriating, but also very exciting tipping point, because through the force of continuing to see it, we know from experience, all the right people, like the people who count, who make the difference, are attracted to that frequency. They're attracted to the vision.
And this is what this podcast is about, right? And this is exactly what Quantum Mogul stands for, exactly what you just said, right? Because you're the perfect candidate, right? It's people like you, right, that are making the difference in the world. And this is what Quantum Mogul really stands for, is to get this message out there to people that are wondering and saying that maybe I can do it. This is why I asked you about the funding. And I'm not going to use the podcast to do it, because the podcast is going out to everybody, but I will certainly be in contact with you about this and funding, because this is why I asked you that question about humanitarian, because what you are doing is completely ticking a box of something that I can talk to you about. If you're interested, and we can talk about your funding, the requirements and stuff, and I would be delighted to talk to you about this, right, and show you some ideas that I think you would be very, very happy with.
That would be great. I mean, I think whether it's a vehicle, or whether it's a podcast, or whether it's an investor, we want to make sure we're bringing in the right audience, and talking to the right people. And I think that it's not surprising that a lot of our clients right now, they're not just successful, innovators and actors and entrepreneurs. They've also had a lot of personal struggles to get there. They're not fifth generation trust fund kids who want to go out and buy a new toy. These are people who fought like hell for their success. And it very often, as you know from your other interviews, it is not the destination that matters. It is the path. It's the process that's transformative. And that is really the lesson, is to keep staying on the path. And it's not unrelenting determinism just to prove yourself right. You have to learn along the way. What is it I'm not doing? What quality do I have to develop in myself to overcome this obstacle? How am I getting in the way of my own destiny, my own future? And is it the way I talk? Is it something I'm doing? Is it a mindset?
Oftentimes, it's your circle of friends.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it is the circle that you hang around with can hold you in a position. At least that has been my experience very much.
That's for some of our clients.
And people we have coached. It has been the environment that they were living in. They just literally had to shake it, and out came an absolute genius out of it.
I love what you're saying, Adam, about ingrained habit. We are what we do. So we are what we think repeatedly. We are what we do repeatedly. And this type of, maverick pioneering really requires us to harness the most out of our neuroplasticity. I love also how you're bringing to bear this whole idea of personal responsibility as a creator and as an innovator, for how we're showing up continuously, the choices that we're making, and really analyzing, well, am I doing that because that's my fallback, or am I doing that because I did that in the past? And is this still working for me? Is this, and this is so much of the area that I work in, is this who I am because of what I have done and what I've chosen in the past? Is this really my personality? Is this really me? When you're pioneering the future, you are, as you explained, you are actually called upon to expand beyond what you are capable of right now.
Yeah.
You are constantly pushing boundaries of energy, belief, time, faith, money. A lot of times the cash flow is like a huge thing, sleepless
It's
nights, like on
frightening.
all sorts of levels, you are being driven by your vision past what is comfortable. And we often talk about how few people, unless they are creating the future, understand what that cost is day in and day out. Are there things for our community of inventors and maverick pioneers and creative visionaries? Are there things that have been helpful for you along the way, in terms of keeping your sanity, or in terms of finding balance, in terms of personal investigation and growth? Are there things that have been helpful for you in this process?
Yeah, there has. I mean, and as we had discussed earlier, there really is no precedent. So I can't look at the, who is the Tesla of classic vehicles and go, I'm going to be like that. There isn't that precedent. So from the outside, you should be discouraged and go, oh, there's no precedent. That means it can't happen. No one can do that. But if we allow the past to dictate our future, that is as reckless as, using your rear view mirror to determine where you're going to drive. It doesn't matter. It's a horrible way of driving, because that's everything that you're looking at is behind you. So when we look at things like, neurology and its relationship to psychology, what you notice is that people that are past oriented in the respect that that's where they spend their time are typically depressed. So that's why the sort of old the old stereotype of like, women in middle-aged women reliving their past on Facebook. Look how beautiful I was in the old days. Oh, it's all over. That's a horribly depressing way to live. And people who are very future oriented have a great deal of dissatisfaction in their life. They're very anxious. They never feel like they get there. It's never enough. But only by being
identify.
Yeah. But only by being present do we really find ourselves to be happy, and that's like, and so, you look for things like cognitive behavioral therapy or rational emotive therapy. You see that a lot of their exercises are really about being grounded in the present, not necessarily in a mindfulness meditation, everybody get a Headspace app way, but more like, look at everything you have right now. Listen to the sounds you hear, feel the table, hear the environment, see the colors, just spend a moment using all of your senses to experience this moment right now, and do them all at once. Use as many senses as you can at once and allow that silence. And what you find is when you ask someone, how do you feel? Like, I feel pretty good, feel very content. And that is really the only thing we have in our life. The only thing we can ever control is our reaction to what's next.
Absolutely.
It is our reaction to the environment that determines our future, not necessarily the things themselves. And so you learn a lot from cognitive behavioral therapy in this. Aaron Beck, when he founded it, got a great deal of inspiration from Stoic philosophy, which really deals a great deal with who cares about the past? What are you doing right now that you could do to do it differently? And so CBT really wasn't about, let's get into your past and talk about your mom and how you ordered, some sea monkeys when you're younger and they never arrived. And you have a terrible childhood because you only had 150 cable channels. Who cares? Like, what matters is like, what are you doing right now that's producing the process of being dissatisfied? And so a lot of that psychology focuses on what we call denominalizing, or turning things back from nouns into verbs. Like, how are you depressing yourself? How are you making yourself feel sad? Why are you choosing to react to things that way? Always back to the idea of choice, that you're choosing to react that way. It's not involuntary. You are choosing that choice. You're choosing that reaction. And when you recognize you have control over what you react to, well, you have that control for your thoughts as well. And your own thoughts feeding you this horrible story about how you're a failure or how you're a great success. That is your narrative coming from inside of you. And you can choose how to react to that message or not. But and you should choose to ignore what it has to say and focus instead on what's in front of you. And how would you react to that if that voice wasn't, screaming from the sidelines, but instead saying, what am I seeing right now? What's happening right now that could change everything for me? And if you miss that opportunity, you really may have missed the whole opportunity this project can bring for you.
That's beautiful.
That's everything that Quantum Mogul. You couldn't have described Quantum Mogul better.
Yeah.
That is exactly.
And I think it's so wonderful. And this is really, for me, the power of frequency and intention and staying true to the vision that was given you. It was given you were given the vision because you have a specific combination of talent and skills and stubbornness, plain stubbornness, to keep going and solve a problem. And I love what you said. You didn't choose an easy problem. You identified there was a really big problem. You were passionate about solving it. And you saw great opportunity where other people haven't even seen that there was an opportunity. So yes, obviously there will be a lag, but what I love is to hear about your current clients and the people who are really passionate owners of Zero Labs, conversions, and to know that there is a similar kind of profile. There is a kind of a maverick who, in a sense, has beaten down, but is still in the ring, is still going for it, and due to that persistence, is actually creating the future now. To round off our really beautiful interview, would you share with our audience how you envision the future in 10 to 15 years time, and even further out? What will our world look like? And we are basically always focused on legacy. We're looking at multi-generational legacy, and exactly what you're doing now is really creating also the heirlooms of the future, right? How do you see your personal legacy? If you would look back from the future, what would that future that you've created look like?
That's a great question. In the world I see it, the past and the future have a seamless blended relationship, that we see the things we own as part of a continuum and not necessarily something that is a disposable representation of all that's good in the technology world, quickly to be discarded by the next thing that comes behind it. That is a very temporal, transient relationship with the things we own. And then you should ask ourselves, why do we really want to own that? And what does it really do for us? And what we find is that more and more and more, as social media increases, the level of dissatisfaction about people's real life also decreases. And so they're highly dissatisfied. There's a great high suicide rates, and there's a great deal of depression that's coming from all this, because the more you're forced to look at your life from the perspective of the approval of others and how you look in a social media persona, the more you realize that the real you is dying. And so who is that real you? What preferences do you really have? If you think about a person as being defined by their preferences, then what are your preferences? Your preferences are like what everybody else is. And that's not a very unique way of living. And so not surprisingly, we're depressed. In the world I see, we turn social media off. We give it a break, and we allow ourselves to remember what knowing the real world was like, and getting to know how to answer a question without requiring emojis and feedback, but actually having a conversation where you can actually have people look at you in the eye and go, I really like what you have to say. I like that you're struggling with that. I like that you're working on that problem. Even if you don't have the answer, it's really cool that you're taking that on for yourself, because that's the discovery that's going to make you happy. Even if there is no social media in the future, you're going to look in an empty room and be very content being in there and filling it with your imagination and filling it with innovation and creative. Really? That's the world I want to see. I don't want to see ideas being fed to us and the increased dissatisfaction that you'll never live up to that standard, because that standard is a fiction. It's a lie. Those personas are fake. The stories you hear about innovation is only the handful of people, and it's only a very highlighted selective story. You don't hear about the depression and the drugs and the alcohol and the terrible things that have happened in their lives. And how a lot of what they've created has been taken from them without their say. You don't hear those stories. You just hear the look how big my boat is stories, and I have another home, and isn't it great? And I'm Forbes under 30, and that's all that matters. But follow that story long enough, how happy are you? You know, so in the world I see, we're able to create our own satisfaction ourselves. We remember that we choose to be unhappy because we're constantly comparing ourselves to people that aren't even really people. And I think that what our role in this as a technology company is to provide a transition from what is the past and what is the future. So it's not you're not buying these cars because everyone approves it. You know, you're buying these cars because you have something inside of you that needs to be cultivated, a sense of self that needs to come forward into the future and not be made obsolete every time there's a new innovation. You know, MP3s didn't wipe out all the songs that came before it, saying, you know what, 1994, we're only going to listen to digital music. And that was the goal. But what if they said, and we're never going to listen to songs from the past? So records, cassettes, those are all gone. We're not going to listen to those anymore. We're only going to listen to new music. You know, there would be like Nirvana and Jay-Z and would be the first bands anybody ever heard. And yet there's a whole giant rich history that comes behind it. And then we need our past to come forward because we need people's past of something they identify with. You know, when we think about what the role of nostalgia provide, it's not just a misremembrance, a love of the past, and misremembrance of the past. It has a neural protective function. You know, its job is to provide us comfort in periods of great discomfort. You know, we don't know what's happening in the world. We don't know what the future is. We don't know what's going on with you. We don't recognize anything. It's not our world anymore. So we use things from our past to provide comfort, to pacify us and say, it's going to be all right. You have your things, you know, you'll wait this one out. You'll be okay. But if we're stripped of that history, it makes the world a very lonely place. It makes us feel lost, that we don't know this world. You know, we don't know these things. We don't know this car. This isn't a phone to us. This isn't music that we recognize. These aren't clothing that I come from. You don't get the jokes I get, you know, so nostalgia and enabling nostalgia via technology is providing that bridge, just like and digital music has brought music in the past, and digitization of old movies have made them so much better than they ever were before, in some, not all cases, but it provides a comfort for us. That's why we're remaking old movies, because somebody out there really needs that story to be told again, you know.
Absolutely.
So we digitize our past and we let them come forward. And then I think that's going to make a lot more people happy than just this constant mindset of replace everything with new, you know.
It's beautiful. It's actually a very organic continuum. You're really creating a lovely sanctuary and a kind of an anchor for this journey into the future, and a sovereign and a creative journey into the future. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Adam. Where can our viewers, and where can those people who are really interested in supporting the Zero Labs mission and also designing and customizing their own vehicle, where can they follow you? How can they get involved? How can they be part of the Zero Labs family?
That's great. Yeah. You can always go to our website, which is zerolabs.com, ZEROLABS. Or you can just email us at hello@ZeroLabs. And if you're an innovator and you have great ideas, or you are struggling with your business and you're feeling pretty down about things, touch base. We're all in there. And I have a network of people that are in a similar position. You know, we're struggling to make this industry happen because it's not given to us. We have to create it on our own. But, you know, that's also what makes it special, because when this industry breaks through, and it's getting ready to, it won't be because we have billion dollar hedge funds, you know, putting everything into our category to make it happen. It's because it wasn't easy, and we forced ourselves to create something very special that could only have existed through determination, not funding. You can spend billions of dollars and be wrong, but if you really, if the community leans in and forces it to happen, the byproduct of that benefits everybody.
And that's absolutely beautiful. It has been an absolute pleasure, real pleasure talking to you.
You as well.
You stand for every single thing that we believe in. Yeah, you really do.
Yeah, it's been such a beautiful meeting of the minds and meeting of the futures. And Thank you so much, Adam. Again, this has been our Quantum Mogul interview with Adam Rowe. Stay tuned for our next episode. Bye for now.